Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Mark Bergin. Duke is San Antonio bound. The Blue Devils play Saturday night in the Final Four against the Houston Cougars. I spoke with WRAL sports reporter Luis Fernandez about Cooper Flagg's emergence among Duke's talented freshman players. We also discussed Duke's stellar defense and how the Blue Devils match up against a Houston team with a lot of playing experience. Here's what that conversation sounded like. It's another edition of the WRAL Daily Download and WRAL Triangle into the Final Four edition. I'm Mark Bergin. He's Luis Fernandez. Luis, Duke is in the Final Four for the first time under Jon Scheyer as a head coach. And before we get into the matchup with Houston, you were boots on the ground in Newark, New Jersey for Duke's run in the Sweet 16 and in the Elite Eight. And I want to start there. To me, in the Elite Eight matchup against Bama, it was the defense that really stuck out to me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Agreed. And I think that's the biggest thing for this Duke team is they are well-rounded. They are not one-dimensional. They have that ability to play great defense as well as great offense. And that, made the biggest difference for them. I remember talking to, Chris Lee and folks before the game and saying, this feels like it's going to either be Alabama just shoots lights out and wins a close game, or Duke shows up and it's not even close. And that's essentially what happened. This Duke team is well balanced enough to be able to take care of groups that don't really have that same kind of mentality where they've got a good offense and a good defense. They have enough ways to attack teams, to look for weaknesses, and then on top of that, they really don't have that many weaknesses in general. You just kind of have to beat them, good on good, if that makes sense.
We will talk plenty about Cooper Flagg and the other star freshmen on this Duke team, but I want people to understand and realize that Alabama went into that Elite Eight matchup with the highest scoring offense in the country, scoring more than 90 points per game. And in the round before, Alabama, in the Crimson Tide's win over BYU, scored 113 points. They made an NCAA record 25 three-point shots. It's an NCAA tournament record. And so then in the next round, Duke holds Alabama to 65 points. Mark Sears, the Crimson Tide's best player, held to 6 points. What Duke can do is win in a multitude of ways. And we talk about the offense and Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple and the hot shooting of Tyrese Proctor. Duke's ability to switch defensively and to be able to defend the three-point line. You've got Kamen Malawach protecting the rim if your man gets by you. This Duke defense is something that you need to watch in the Final Four in Saturday's matchup against Houston.
Yeah, Jon Scheyer has said many times throughout the course of the season that when they were building this roster, there were a lot of things that they had in mind, but particularly length, positional length. So having guards that can give people problems defensively because of their wingspan, how tall they are. Having forwards, having, a front court in general that can do that, which obviously they have. Having Malik Brown come back, even just for sparing minutes, that helps them a lot. They love positional versatility. And you have a lot of different players on this Duke team that are capable of guarding most, if not all, positions, whether that be Cooper Flagg. Kamen Malawach has shown the ability to get switched out into guards and be able to defend well on the outside, on the perimeter. You got people like Sion James who play very well defensively. Tyrese Proctor. Cooper Flagg, I would dare to say, is the best weak side defender in college basketball. The way he's able to, you saw it a lot happen in Alabama, where even going back to Arizona, where someone's going up for a layup and all of a sudden Cooper Flagg comes out of nowhere and volleyball spikes the ball into the first row of the crowd. So this Duke defense is very, very legit. It's part of the reason why I, in my brackets, have them winning a national championship, because that is their floor in my mind going into this season was the Final Four. And so now their ceiling is a national championship.
Luis, what else did you notice when you were out in New Jersey covering these games?
A lot of Duke fans, as one might imagine, from the national brands portion, but there's always the joke that Duke fans are very prevalent in the Northeast. That was very clear from watching these games. There were a lot of Duke fans, visiting Newark. There are a lot of Duke fans in the stands at Prudential Center. So there is that. Another thing that stands out when you're just at these games is there were a lot of fans from Newport, Maine, which is where Cooper Flagg is from. He's kind of turned into this living legend up in Newport, a bit of a local hero. And so you saw a lot of folks from Maine who were representing, who were there to support Cooper Flagg. One woman I spoke with, the phrase she used is Maine backs Maine. So, that was very prevalent as well. Overall, I just think that this Duke team has so much momentum, and it's going to be hard to stop them in the Final Four. But I will say, having all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four does make for some very fun matchups for all teams involved.
Yeah, first time the Final Four has had all 4 number 1 seeds since 2008. So it all went according to chalk to this point, pretty much. And we've got Duke and Houston on Saturday night. Now, you mentioned Duke's length and what that does for the team defensively, going up against a Houston squad that's very experienced. But if Duke can take care of business and win a national championship, Lewis, we talked about this on a previous show. We were saying best Duke team since, and then you fill in the blank. If they actually go and win these next 2 games and win the national championship, I'm talking about the Shane Battier, Jay Williams, like early 2000s Duke team of how this team will be remembered. Now, short of a championship, different conversation, but to me, the way they've played together, and I know you've got a mix of young and old with the freshmen and Flagg, Malawach, and Con Knipple, and then you've got more veteran players in Proctor and Zion James and Caleb Foster, and so forth. But that, to me, you've got, okay, how they'll be remembered historically. And then I was thinking about this too from the draft standpoint, because Flagg's going to be the top pick in the NBA draft.
Yep.
Like most exciting prospect since Zion Williamson. Now, totally different players. But whether you're a college basketball fan, an NBA fan, just as you're a basketball fan in general, I'm amazed. Like Lewis, you're a UNC alum. This Duke team is so likable to watch.
That's actually a conversation that I feel like has come up just in general nationally. This team is a lot different than, those classic villain Duke teams in the past. Maybe it's John Shire and the mentality that he's brought to this team. John Shire is a very likable dude. He's very chill. But then you've also got, a lot of really talented players who just play hard and play well. I wouldn't really say there is like a Grayson Allen type, a, Kyle Singler type. Like, you don't really have that type of player on this Duke team, someone who is a villain, quote unquote. So, it's also for me, like, I'm a fan of good basketball. And I find myself very often during Duke games, throughout the course of the season, really, but especially in this tournament run, where you're watching and you just say to yourself, this is good basketball. Like, this is good basketball. It's just the way they play. It's because it's not even like it's people who maybe weren't really paying attention to Duke before this NCAA tournament run. Like, it's not Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg's out here just ISO ball, like jacking shots up all over the place. Like, he plays with a rhythm and sense of purpose. The team they assist on over 50% of their made shots. Like, they play great defense. They rotate well. They have a great balance of an in and out game. You got Con Knipple constantly getting these pick and rolls with Common Malawach, where it's just little lobs, for easy alley-oops and stuff like that. I mean, this Duke team is, I could sing its praises for a very long time. They are very fun to watch. It is a very good basketball team. And I think that has become very apparent over the course of this NCAA tournament. I spoke with a lot of people at the beginning of the tournament run who were like, maybe Baylor can trip them up. Maybe X team here can cause a little bit of chaos. And the entire time my response was always, this Duke team is not losing unless it's to a number 1 seed. And here we are in the Final Four, where they're going to have to be 2 number 1 seeds to get a national championship.
Lewis, this is where I flex your muscles. And hey, if you're watching, pay attention to this point. in the show. Lewis, you're an AP voter, so you watch a lot of college basketball. You've been watching a lot of college basketball with your coverage for years. So when I hear you say that, it resonates with me even more than just someone like me who's just happens to be watching on television. So when you say these things, I perk up a little bit and I listen a little bit more. And this is where, listen, I'm going to flex your muscles a little bit of, hey, pay attention to what Luis Fernandez is saying in this regard when it comes to this Duke team. Now, I mentioned Houston, very experienced, very talented backcourt. LJ Cryer is a fifth-year player, the leading scorer for Houston, but you've got Emmanuel Sharp, Milos Uzan, Juwan Roberts for Houston. This is a player who's 23 years old, has played in 170 collegiate games. You got a lot of other players on this roster that have played a lot of basketball. It's this group's second Final Four together. We'll see how Kelvin Sampson's team matches up. Remember, it's Kelvin Luis Fernandez. It's
that made me.
Yeah,
I forget who. That was very funny. There was someone who called him Kevin Sampson on Twitter, and it was very funny. It was a very good time. But this Houston team is they're very good, Mark. The way we saw that against Tennessee. I think it's interesting in this tournament. We've had a couple of opportunities where you've had kind of two teams that are very similar, and then they face each other, and you see the better version of that team move on. BYU, Alabama, I think, was an example of this, where BYU likes to move, likes to get up threes, likes to score points like Alabama does, and they couldn't keep up with Alabama's pace. Tennessee and Houston, very similar. Two teams that just like to mess you up, that like to get in there, play physical, play good defense, and you ultimately saw Houston come on top there. Now, how Duke and Houston matches up, I think is going to be very interesting, and something kind of even more big picture wise I want to draw attention to is that this is the kind of game that Duke has played in the past two NCAA tournaments. 2 years ago, in the first Kyle Filipowski era, you had Duke lose to Tennessee in the round of 32. It was a very physical game. It felt like this team got beat up, and Tennessee advanced to the Sweet 16. Now, the following year, Duke, in the Sweet 16, played Houston. And what did the Blue Devils do? They beat Houston. So this is an NCAA tournament rematch of sorts. Houston's going to be paying very close attention to it. And this is something that's been playing in the back of their minds over the course of the past offseason and season. But this Duke team it's not a finesse team. It's not a team that's going to struggle against physical brands. And so if anything, they can be that physical brand. So I'm very curious to see how it all unfolds in this one. Last time, I think that they were at least a 5.5 point favorite or something like that last time I saw. So it's kind of like a coming together, serendipitous type moment for Duke basketball over the past few years to face Houston in the Final Four.
I'm with you in that this year's Duke team is much more physical with Malawach and Flagg alone. And then it's not to shortchange some of the reserve players, but compared to previous seasons, Duke's teams, and I'm talking about protecting the paint, protecting the basket, Lewis. So I'm with you there in terms of how this Duke team matches up with Houston. We'll see Saturday night. Let's take a quick break. Not to look past Saturday night, but the last thing I want to ask you, Lewis, is this. If Duke advances Saturday night to Monday night's national title game, which matchup do you think would be more favorable for the Blue Devils between Florida and Auburn?
I think that's a good question. I lean towards Auburn being the more favorable of the two matchups. And that's primarily because I think that, well, first off, we saw Janai Broome get hurt in the Elite Eight. He was able to come back into the game, but you're never sure how much that's going to impact them. But also, Florida has kind of been playing with this, not team of destiny type vibe per se, but like they just know how to win games. Like they have come back on many occasions, had some really impressive moments, and so I think Florida's a little bit more dangerous at this point. I think Auburn is finding ways to win, but you know what I mean? But they're not like, coming out here and having the most impressive wins, if that makes sense. I think Duke will be favored in either matchup. I think, once again, I think Duke is the favorite at the moment to win the national championship. Plus 100, I think, was the last odds I saw. So, I think that they're going to be in a good position regardless. But I would, if I was Duke, I would much rather go through Auburn than I think Florida.
I'm with you for this reason is Broom's right arm injury. Now, he is a left-handed player. He came back into the game against Michigan State.
Yep.
I'm curious to see if he's compromised at all with that injury. Are there any lingering effects into the Final Four from that arm injury in the Elite Eight? Because it did not look good initially. And again,
I thought he was done. I thought he was done.
Same. The way he walked off the floor, I was like, oh, man, this could really shake things up. Remember, Duke also beat Auburn in early December at Cameron Indoor Stadium. I wonder if there's any revenge factor for Auburn at that point. But Florida finding ways to win. You mentioned Team of Destiny. They were down against Texas Tech by like 9 points with 3 minutes and some change left. I was watching the game with some buddies, Lewis. It's like, oh, Florida's bounced. They're done. The next time I look up at the TV, Florida's head coach is celebrating. I'm like, what happened? In Walter Clayton Jr. has just been prolific. Now, I know Texas Tech missed some free throws late in that game, but Florida has just been hot. I mean, all these teams have been hot. Houston going into Saturday night against Duke has the longest active winning streak in all of college basketball. So there is a reason why each of these teams were number 1 seeds headed into this weekend's Final Four.
And I think so kind of looking at this big picture, right? Mm-hmm. You have 4 1 seeds for just the second time ever making the Final Four. And when I put together my bracket, I put all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four. The reason being that from a metrics perspective, these 4 teams have been far and away the best teams in the country this year. I love Cinderellas in March, but sometimes what ends up happening is a Cinderella makes a run, they're playing well, and then they run into a brick wall in like the Final Four in the Elite Eight. You will not be getting that this year. You could sit here and give me an actual good argument for why all 4 of these teams will win a national championship. These are 4 of the most impressive teams that we've seen in recent memory from the metrics in quite some time. Like, just to kind of put this in comparison, right? When you look at like overall KenPom rankings, you remember the Purdue team that lost to a 16 seed a few years ago? Mm-hmm. They would be a 5 seed in this year's iteration of the NCAA tournament. Like, that's like the comparison of what we're looking at. So you have a lot of really good basketball teams. And so we have 4 of them clashing in the Final Four. I think it is going to be a 3 really, really good basketball games. And so I'm excited to see how it comes together. And you mentioned it as well, Walter Clayton Jr. People have been talking about how great Cooper Flagg has been. He's been the second best player in the tournament, hands down. The way I was in the media room watching as that Texas Tech Florida game unfolded. He gets a pass in the paint, dribbles out to the 3-point line, turns around, throws it up, makes it, gets it to go in for the lead. I'm not saying he is this person, but like the exact flow of that, vintage Steph Curry. And it's going to be really fun to watch these different players, whether it be Cryer or Flagg or, Clayton or Janai Broom, just all go at it in the Final Four. It is going to be a really, really good weekend of basketball.
San Antonio, Texas. So the first matchup, the SEC, Auburn, Florida, and then the nightcap, Duke and Houston. Duke and Houston tipping off, scheduled for 8:49 Eastern. It is going to be a blast. And stay with us. Coverage on WRAL TV, WRAL.com, WRALSportsFan.com. Lewis, if there's anything else I'm forgetting, take it away.
Like you said, keep following along. Chris, Lee, and myself will be down there this weekend, so we'll have you covered. We've got all the fun stories to be telling you, all the fun moments and experiences to share. It should be a really good few days of basketball, and ultimately, I think it ends with Duke men's basketball getting their 6th title and winning a national championship on Monday.
We will see. I'm with you, though, Lewis. He's Luis Fernandez. I'm Mark Bergin. Thank you for watching and listening to WRAL Triangle and 2 and the WRAL Daily Download. Thank you to Luis Fernandez. You can find more podcasts from WRAL News at WRAL.com. Search the word podcast. From sports to true crime, there are plenty of shows to keep you informed and entertained. I'm Mark Bergin. Thank you for listening.